There are some officials coming out already saying that, especially with the new Visa Exempt program. And he went to go leave, immigration caught it, and he is in a world of hurt right now. Visas, visas, visas. Pretty much all the news you see coming out of Thailand right now, at least pertaining to expats, has to do with visas. The DTV Visa, the new 60-day Exempt Visa. Does that count as a visa? I don't know. Now, if you're looking for specific information on any of the new visa changes, especially the DTV, feel free to hop back a couple videos in my catalog. I went over some questions that have been answered and what we know now, but in today's video, we're going a different route. So it's been about a month. People are starting to apply for and get denied or accepted for the DTV. People are showing up and using that new 60-day Visa Exempt stamp to get in and spend some time here. And like I mentioned in the previous video, I had a feeling that we were gonna need some time. We were gonna need all of this to hash out a bit and some experiences to start happening before we really knew how things were gonna work. And lo and behold, people are coming out, there's some experiences, some things are happening. Let's talk about it. Now, pretty much the main aspect that's kind of making things look the way they are, or kind of the reason that things are turning out the way that they have been, at least in some people's experience, is I want everybody to understand that the people who create these visas, you know, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and there's a couple of them, they all come together and they kind of figure out what visas they're gonna offer and all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, where the rubber meets the road, immigration is in charge of enforcing these things, and immigration kind of does things how they would like to do them. We all know that even if you're going into pretty much any country and you have all your paperwork lined up, everything's all good, you're 100% legit, if that immigration official decides, hey, I'm not gonna let you in for whatever reason, at the end of the day, it is up to them. So early on, quite a few people did come out and say, hey, you know, we need to wait, we need things to play out a bit, we need some people to apply for these visas, show up, especially with the DTV, we need some people to be in Thailand, leave and come back in before we see if there are any issues, or, you know, before we can really get a lot of those questions answered that I'm sure a lot of you had. And to me, this makes a lot of sense, because if you think about it, if you go online to any of the immigration websites or anything like that, and pertaining to the Visa Exempt program especially, it says online that you're allowed to come into Thailand 2 times per year via a land border, and then it doesn't really say how many times you can come in by plane, but some people have said, and some sites have listed, hey, well, you can do that 4 times. So it used to be you would get 30 days when you showed up, you could extend that for another 30 days. So if you do the math, according to the website, every year, and this is in calendar years, it doesn't roll over. So according to that math, you could come in 6 times if you utilize both of those. Now, I'm sure some of you have heard, I've dealt with it myself personally. I've gotten a bit of flack coming back in on a tourist visa if you have a bunch of those stamps, or not a tourist visa, but the Visa Exempt, kind of the same deal, but not really. And at the end of the day, immigration wasn't really crazy about it. At the same time, I know a lot of people that would come in and not have any issues, so it really came down to the immigration officials. And now with the new visas, we've starting to get a little bit of time, people are starting to utilize them, and now the stories start coming through. Now, one of the first things we'll talk about, something that's kind of come to light over this past month as things are kind of getting rolling. If you have been reading up on the DTV visa especially, you'll know the rules were kind of left up to different embassies in different countries, right? So there are some overall stipulations that are kind of the same across the board, but then there's some other things like what type of proof you need or how much money you need in a specific amount of time to qualify for this. And the biggest thing that's come out so far is, with everything being so brand new, these embassies are all over the world, right? And we all know how a chain of command is, you know, even in your, 9-to-5 job, how much things get lost in translation coming down the ladder. And that's one of the things that is coming out already, is a lot of the embassies are a little bit behind, which totally makes sense. It's a brand new visa, brand new process. Things are changing even with the Visa Exempt program. Some countries are still saying that you only get 30 days on arrival, even though it's now switched to 60 days. When it comes to the DTV visa, other embassies are asking for different requirements, things that we didn't hear about here. But if you don't know, you actually do have to apply for the DTV visa if you are outside of Thailand. So if that's something you want to do, make sure you are checking with your embassy specifically, or whichever one you're going to. We still don't really know how stringent it's going to be that you are in your home country's embassy, or if you can just be somewhere else and apply through them. We're really not sure yet, but definitely make sure with that specific embassy what their requirements are before you pay all the filing fees and everything like that. That way you're not wasting any money and you can get all your stuff together and have a much better chance for approval. You may or may not know that Thailand has always been pretty good at pulling the old switcheroo. Some things go through and then later they backpedal it entirely, or the rules just start changing a little bit. And lo and behold, that is already looking like it might happen with the requirements or how some of these new visas are going to work. There are some officials coming out already saying that, especially with the new visa exempt program being longer, that's encouraging more people to come here and work illegally or just take advantage of it, essentially. Their argument is that anybody who's coming to Thailand just for vacation is rarely going to stay more than a month, which I could kind of agree with. And the main thing to keep in mind is if things start getting enforced a certain way, or maybe not as it's written online or wherever you find your research, the first place you're gonna see it is with the immigration officials. There's plenty of people online that will tell you, hey, I did this and I did this and I did this and everything was fine. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it seems like I have some pretty bad luck when it comes to official government type stuff. And with that said, I have seen some people already posting online. It's all over Reddit. It always hits Reddit first. That one of the main requirements for the DTV visa specifically is you need to have 500,000 baht in a bank account. It doesn't have to be a Thai account, just any bank account in general. And I've already seen people saying, oh, well, you can just do this and this, and you can kind of faux your documents or, you know, forge paperwork and just send it in and they're not going to check. I'm not an attorney. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But if you take any piece of advice from me, do not forge official government documents. Recently, there was a guy here who was trying to leave Phuket and he was worried about having too many tourist stamps. So he went ahead and tore out, or no, he didn't tear out a page. He changed the 3 on the date of his stamp to an 8, and he went to go leave. Immigration caught it, and he is in a world of hurt right now. He's getting charged with all kinds of crazy stuff. Do not forge government documents. There have already been quite a few immigration officials to come out and say that they will be making an active effort to make sure either of these visas, the exempt or the DTV, across the board really, that they're not being taken advantage of. This is one of the biggest revamps for Thailand when it comes to the whole visa process, and there's people from all different angles that are pushing for different things, but like we said, at the end of the day, immigration is at the bottom of that funnel. So I would very much expect things to be strict on the application process. I would very much expect things to be strict at the border. One thing that I think is really going to become true, especially with this new DTV visa, is I think there will very much be a crackdown on the visa exempt program, because now there's really no excuse to not be on the proper visa for you. It used to kind of be people like my age, digital nomads. There was kind of a gap, not saying that that was an excuse that would get you out of any trouble. But now with the DTV visa, I would imagine that immigration, the first things that they're going to be targeting crackdowns on to make sure people aren't taking advantage of is 1, education visas. That's usually the first one. That is usually the first thing they start looking at, the first thing they start hounding people for. And 2, the visa exempt program. I think they have spent some time trying to figure out how they can kind of close this loophole. So in my opinion, I think within the next year or so, that door is going to kind of be shut. But in all reality, the DTV visa is 10,000 baht. If you are a digital nomad, you've got some money saved up and you can do a little bit of work online, that is a very viable option. And in all reality, if you do the math, doing border runs even every 90 days now, that's gonna end up costing you more in a year than 10,000 baht, which is the application fee for the DTV visa. So if you're coming to Thailand, you're looking to spend a little extra time here, maybe kind of a staycation, and you're looking to just kind of squeak by maybe on the visa exempt program, or if you're maybe gonna send some documents off that might not be legitimate, I highly advise doing against that. Thailand does not play when it comes to foreigners breaking the law in country. It's not one of those situations where it's like, oh, if I get busted in Thailand, they're just gonna send me home and they're just gonna deport me. Especially with everything being brand new, I think they're gonna try to set the tone and let everybody know like, hey, this is the only way it's gonna work. You have to be legit. There's not gonna be any more of this visa run gambit where you can stay in Thailand long term and kind of manipulate the system. Even though technically it's not against the rules, I guess a lot of people see it as a loophole, which kind of makes sense. So I would highly advise just going the right route. Make sure you're all legit, because at the end of the day, personally, I don't want an extended stay at the Bangkok Hilton, and I'm pretty sure you don't either. Over the next few months, I think a lot more news is gonna come out about how things are gonna actually work. We can see some firsthand experiences. And of course, I will keep you guys updated as always. And like I always say, thank you for tuning in to another video. I'll catch you in the next one.